Hey guys, I'm Alicia Malone. Welcome to AMCi Indie Spotlight. This is the show to watch if you want to learn more about indie films. To do that, I'm joined today by two very fine gents. First up, he's from Access Hollywood and my co-host on Profiles with Malone and Mantz, Mr. Scott Mantz, aka Mantzy Pants.
Mantzy Pants, call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner. I love doing AMCi Indie Spotlight. These are the movies that people should really be seeing.
Yes, and he is the West Coast editor for the Alternative Press, Ryan J. Downey, aka Rai Rai.
Now, she just gave me that nickname yesterday, Mantzy Pants. I want to know, is that
goes
hers?
back to childhood.
Really?
Yes. Oh, are you kidding? Scott Mantz is ants in his pants? Well, you get credit today.
I'm Australian. I have to give everyone nicknames.
Why
It's
not?
a
I
rule.
get Downey Fabric Softener, Robert Downey Jr.,
Downey
Morton
Jr.
Downey Jr.
What happened to Manso?
Mantzo,
Don't
yeah,
you end up every
Australian.
name with an O?
O or a Y, so Mancy qualifies.
Nancy. Okay, there you go.
All right, well, let's get into a bit of indie movie news. The first trailer for the next Blumhouse Productions micro-budget horror has been released. Creep stars Mark Duplass. It's a found footage film about a terminally ill man who hires a cameraman to document his day in the woods for his young son, but things aren't quite what they seem. Scott, to me, this looks really scary. Do you like what Blumhouse does with these small-budget indies?
Blumhouse is really on the ball. They really know what they're doing. Look at the Insidious movies. All three of them, even the third, which just opened, really good. 5 Paranormal Activity movies since 2009, and they're all really good, especially the first one. The Purge, the second one, was really disturbing. So you had me at Creep. You had me at Mark Duplass, who's like, he's an actor, he's a writer, he's a director, he's a producer. He is an indie king, starting with like Hump Day, where he invented that sort of mumblecore style. But this movie, he looks like the perfect kind of person to play someone who's very inviting and then not so much.
Yeah.
And again, because Blumhouse, they're just doing such great work with independent horror film, you had me at Creep.
Ryan, do you like found footage movies, or do you think they've kind of been done
You know,
now?
it's funny that's what you asked, because that was the first place my head went. It was like, found footage. But I agree with you, and certainly just as a fan of films and given the subject matter of this show, the micro-budget thing is really exciting. And I do appreciate like all these franchises that you just mentioned, Insidious movies, The Purge, Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
The found footage idea might not be an original concept, but the premises for these movies are at least quasi-original, as opposed to like, oh, let's go see the Poltergeist remake.
Exactly.
So
which is
I
horrible.
definitely appreciate that about everything we're talking about.
Well, the other thing about the found footage thing, it has gotten long in the tooth, but when they're done well, they're done really well. Like, what was it, last year or the year before, Europa Report was a found footage type of movie. I thought it was brilliant, and I'm more of a sci-fi guy anyway, but if you do it right, then it's definitely a good movie to watch, and I really am looking forward to Creep.
Do you think the found footage thing is going to be around? I mean, because people say like, when are superhero movies going to be over? Or when are westerns going to be over? And it's like, those are just genres. They just exist now.
Well, the found footage thing has been around since '99, you know, when
Blair
it launched with
Witch.
Blair Witch, which made $240 million worldwide, despite the fact that it cost $30,000.
How do you just remember these facts off the top of your head? I don't know.
I have all of this useless information. If I can figure out a way to monetize this
It's great.
with movie
Like
dates,
Jeopardy
I'd be
type
styling.
thing. I know. I do like found footage when it comes to horror, because it makes it even scarier. First, you feel like you're watching something real, something that's actually
And I saw Blair
happened.
Witch early enough where it still
Oh.
had that, like, people were saying it was real.
I threw up after I saw Blair Witch.
Oh, yeah, the
Because I
shaky
was
cam.
and I was just terrified as well. It was both the shaky cam, because you hadn't seen anything quite like it on the big screen, and the subject matter, because found footage, it's like you can only see what they're looking at. Whereas with other horror films, you can see wider establishing shots. So you're like, look over there, and you know they're going to turn, and then it'll be something jumping out of it. Mark Duplass, I love him. He's great, and he
Totally.
looks really creepy in
Yeah.
this movie. It's going to be released on Netflix and iTunes. So I think it'll definitely make its money back. And I will be watching it, and then I'll be scared.
You'll
I know
be
I should
scared.
reference a bunch of mumblecore stuff, but I really like him on the Mindy Project.
Oh.
You watched Togetherness? Togetherness, which was on, I think it was HBO. They just did like an 8-episode run.
It was good.
It was great.
I love anything with him.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
So staying with low budgets, something much more explosive. Director Uwe Boll went on a YouTube rampage after the Kickstarter campaign for his film Rampage 3 failed to make its $55,000 goal. In the video titled F You All, Boll criticizes Kickstarter, crowdfunding in general, and Hollywood stars like Angelina Jolie and your father, Robert Downey Jr. Ryan, what do you make of this? Do you think it might actually drive people to fund more of his movies if people like seeing this?
First of all, I would fund it if Rampage was actually about the arcade game Rampage. I was a huge fan of that as a little kid. My dad, Robert Downey Jr., used to take me to the grocery store to play it. Yeah. I one time when I interviewed him, I introduced myself as Ryan Downey, no relation, and then I proceeded to thank him for a life of Robert Downey Jr. jokes, and he just looked at me very dryly, and he goes, "Imagine how I feel."
That's very Robert Downey Jr.
That's what you want.
DJ.
But no, the thing with crowdfunding itself, I think, is really exciting, particularly in the music business, where there just aren't a lot of resources left to go around, and where the splits with the artists had been unfair for a long time. I think what he needs to keep in mind is Kickstarter's not the only option now. And the thing with Kickstarter is that you can see the dollar amount and then you can see when it's like an abysmal failure.
Yeah. And if you don't make that, you don't get
anything.
Money.
Right. And then there are a lot of other crowdfunding options now where, you can have like a little thermometer or something set to where you can see what percentage was funded for your project versus like putting it out there for the world, how hard it bombed.
But to put it bluntly, to answer your question, F you too. I would not give him the lint in my belly button after that tirade.
It.
I mean, who the hell does he think he is? First of all, make a good movie. Blood Rain sucked. Alone in the Dark was me sitting in the movie theater because there was nobody else there to watch his movies. First of all, make a good film, and then you can complain when nobody crowdfunds it.
There's going to be a YouTube video called F You Scott Mance in a second.
You know what? Bring it. Bring it.
And he gets kicked around a lot, and deservedly so for his body of work. However, one could argue that studios certainly throw tons of money at big stars that make horrible movies, and directors who make horrible movies. So it's like, in and of itself, just because he's going to make a crappy movie doesn't, you know what I mean?
But
like it doesn't.
You talk about biting the hand that feeds you. To look at a number and say, you know what, F you, and call the fans or the moviegoers, and this is his word, a retard. I mean, not cool at all. Not cool at all. Like, you know what? Get over it. You know what this reminds me of? You know who Tony Kaye is?
Yes.
Tony Kaye directed American History X.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And
he
was so incensed when New Line recut his film that he wanted to take his name off the movie and use the word Humpty Dumpty. Directed this film. New Line said no way. So Tony Kaye launched this whole war in the trades back when they were dailies, the Hollywood Reporter and Variety.
And it sounds like the setup to a joke, but didn't he come to a meeting with like a priest, a rabbi, and like an imam or something?
The point is, this movie came out in 1998. If you look at his IMDb page, he has not directed a major motion picture since. No one's going to work with him. And if this guy is going to take that kind of stand with the fans because they don't want to fund his crappy movies, you know what? Tough. No one's going to work with you, and no one's going to want to fund your movies.
But only to play devil's advocate here, probably literally, I liked The Fighter. Like David O. Russell still gets to work.
Oh, that's a great movie. That's a great. But I just was watching these videos, and I was just like, who needs this? I'd rather put my money to a filmmaker who deserves it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I didn't like what he said about the fans. I thought that was, very disrespectful. And
that's so antithetical to the whole crowdfunding thing, because the whole idea of it is you're going to the fans and cutting out the
fans are helping you make your project.
Exactly.
But I think he's a funny character. Do you remember in 2006 when he challenged some film critics to a fist fight and he actually boxed them?
Yeah.
I think those kind of antics are kind of funny and
That's
a little bit
different.
refreshing.
Right.
But yeah, these videos in particular, what he said about the fans were
challenging critics to a boxing match is a joke. That was not a joke. He seemed genuinely peeved.
He was very angry.
And he was very angry, very bitter. Tough beans, buddy. Sorry.
All right, well, on to some good news. One more story involving YouTube. Actress Rose McGowan, Ryan's good friend,
Yes.
will be releasing her directorial debut on YouTube. It's a 17-minute short film, a sexual and dark movie called Dawn. So, Scott, what do you think about YouTube being a platform for short films like
Excellent.
this?
I think it's great because, first of all, when was the last time general moviegoers went to the movies to watch a collection of short films? The only ones I know are right here every year when the Academy releases its short films in theaters right before the Academy Awards. That's the only time we really get to see them. So where else are aspiring filmmakers going to release their films, their short films, as like a calling card just to put themselves out there? YouTube. It's a great way. You can watch it whenever, wherever you want. That's the best thing about YouTube, is watching work that you're not going to see anywhere else.
Yeah, Ryan, this short actually showed at Sundance 2014. So I'm not sure exactly if they're going to make money from this, but do you think this is a good way to show what she can do as a director? Apparently, it got really good reviews.
Yeah, well, I think exactly to Scott's point, the idea that it's the epitome of on demand. Like, you can just like be sitting in line somewhere and like, I'm going to watch Rose McGowan's short film on my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to say that that's necessarily the best medium, but it definitely takes out any of the heavy lifting of having to figure out where it's playing and tracking it down and what it's playing with, and do you want to sit through that? I whether or not there's a financial windfall from it, I think that's dubious. I've seen. No disrespect to Google and YouTube, but views versus
The money you make.
payout isn't exactly, it hasn't quite caught up yet. But I am a fan of how encouraging to content creators YouTube has been over the last few years, whether it's funding channels or shows. And they have a studio here in town where if you have X number of subscribers to your channel, you can go and film something like this for free.
Red
so
cameras, really
Right,
good
exactly,
equipment.
Yeah.
Top of the
remember when Bryan Singer was doing the Superman movie with a red camera, and it was like the one red camera in the world or
breaks
now
something?
in the
YouTube
world.
space
In Australia.
has Australia. I know. I'm looking forward to seeing this because of the reviews. I mean, people were saying it looks like it's been made by someone who's been studying film for a long time, rather than what you might expect just from an actress trying her hand at directing. So it sounds like she has a really promising future, and maybe if she puts it out there, then other people will see it, and then she'll get to make a feature film, which could be really cool.
Come a long way from Jason Priestley directing episodes of 90210.
Yeah, a long way.
Or Scream.
Love Jason Priestley. All right, well, let's take a look at the indie films being released in theatres this week with our In Theatres Roundup. 11th Hour is a drama starring Kim Basinger as a woman who is desperate for a child. She's told she's too old. She's devastated by that, so she starts to consider some other ways to get a child. Hamari Aduri Kahani. So I didn't do that very convincingly. It's an Indian romance. Indian romance about a hotel magnate who falls for a single mother with a past. Heaven knows what. I saw this one with Amy Rose at the AFI Film Festival last year. It had a big effect on me. It's really well done. It's a low-budget drama about a homeless heroin addict, and it's made really powerful because the star, Ariel Holmes, was a homeless heroin addict herself. This is her first film, and so everything is very believable, and it's heart-wrenching to watch, but really well made. Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl is finally here. Only in these cities, but don't worry, because it will be expanding next week. This is the Sundance winner we have been talking about for ages, about a young guy who makes friends with a girl who has cancer. It's funny, it's touching, it's very well directed. Pressure stars Danny Houston and Matthew Good, two great actors. This is an underwater thriller about a group of men stuck underwater, I said that twice, after they go down to fix an oil pipeline. And Vendetta with Dean Cain and wrestling star The Big Show. This is an action film where Cain plays a detective who purposely gets arrested so he can get revenge on the man who killed his wife. It's directed by the Soska sisters, Sylvia and Jen. Sounds really interesting. So, Scott, out of all these, which have you seen? Obviously, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl.
Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. For the third year in a row, this is the third year in a row that a film won the top two prizes at the Sundance Film Festival after Whiplash and Fruitvale Station. Boy, when we were at Sundance and we heard about this 10-minute standing ovation that this movie got, and we tried to get tickets to the next screening way down in Salt Lake City, and we couldn't get them. So yes, the movie is finally open. It's got a big heart. The actors are terrific in this movie, and this is a movie for people who love movies. And when you see the film, you will see why, because I don't want to give too much away. But the emotional impact of this film, especially the very last scene, will just stay with you long after the house lights come up. I love this movie. I'm so glad people are finally going to get a chance to see it.
Yeah.
And this is coming from Fox Searchlight. First of all, they won the last 2 movies to win Best Picture, were Birdman and 12 Years a Slave. Fox Searchlight releases the best films. This could be the sleeper hit of the summer.
I hope so. Ryan, have you gotten to see any of these movies?
I haven't, but I really want to see that one. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, I thought you were asking if I'd seen that one.
Yeah, all of them.
I was, as some of those films were going by, it's interesting, just thinking about the careers of some of the actors who are participating in some of these. Matthew Good, I mean, I think he's fantastic.
Me too.
I've been watching him on The Good Wife. He's very, very good on that show.
There were those 2 different movies like 10 years ago that were about the president's daughter and the guy dating them. Remember how there were
yeah. There were
2. There was a Mandy Moore one, and
That's
and I think
who's in the other one?
Who's in the other one? Yeah,
he was in Match Point.
The Dawson's Creek one was the other
That's
one.
right. Match
Yeah, but
Point.
anyway, Matthew Good. I mean, there was a moment where it was like he was going to be this big
The next Hugh Grant.
A-lister. And, I like to see him getting work because he does good work.
I like to see Dean Cain still around and
Dean
Kim
Cain.
Basinger, like all these actors, like you said, that have been in the industry for a long time and now looking at indie films, which is fun.
Yes. And when everyone was talking about 50 Shades of Grey that weekend, I was like, I like that movie when it was called 9.5 Weeks, and it was good.
Yes.
Well, Kim
that's
Basinger is an
much
Oscar
better.
winner for LA Confidential, supporting actress. And even just from the looks of this film, 11th Hour, I mean, whether she's in a good movie or a bad movie, she's always committed. She's always committed. And even some of her not so great movies, like I Dreamed of Africa, was a great attempt at a film that I actually enjoyed because of her.
Yeah.
So she's a very fine actress. I wish we'd get more work in like.
Yeah,
bigger
she does
films.
great work even if the film doesn't rise.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's fantastic. And as we said, Me, Earl and the Dying Girl is definitely worth a watch this weekend if you can. Otherwise, next weekend when it expands more. But I got to sit down with the cast to talk about the film. So here is a little bit of that interview. So I feel like with a lot of films you watch, you don't get much of a sense of a director's style, but with this you definitely do.
Yeah.
How would you describe Alfonso's style as a director? It's perfectly
Right.
That's well said. Yeah. It's amazing the way he uses. I mean, he uses the camera like a paintbrush or something. Like he's such an artist, and his love for film is so infectious. Like he just knows so much about all these people that have come before him, and it's really inspiring.
But
to be
also
around.
just incredibly caring of us, just incredibly
just
nurturing.
genuinely loves actors. Yeah.
You feel very, very safe and supported, and you're just in this bubble of just creativeness, and you're able to explore, and he just lets you do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, did it have a great sense of creative energy on set? Could you all collaborate together?
For sure, and the crew, even the crew was so amazing. Everyone genuinely loved the film and wanted to do the best, and just to come down to the sets and the art direction and props and lighting.
Yeah, it was
and
like a big arts and crafts department. Like people were always making things, and like it was such a creative place to be around. It was really great.
You can see the rest of those interviews on the AMC Theatres YouTube page. Okay, let's go to our short film competition winner of the week. Can I get a drum roll? It is For Love by Alex O'Cannon. Yay! This is a really cute stop-motion animation about a stick figure coming to life off the page, saving the love of his life. Less than 3 minutes long. It's silent. It's got beautiful music, shot really nicely. Did either of you get a chance to watch this one?
No, and I love stop motion animation.
It's really good. It's what they've done with just on a page and then a little, what do you call them again? Like the little cleaners, the little felt cleaners. You can see there, like the little
there you
stick
go.
figure.
Yeah.
It's so clever. It just shows that you don't need a lot of money to make something that can have a profound effect. So I will be putting the YouTube link to that movie in the description so everyone can see it. And Alex, you have got some movie tickets coming your way so you can see some movies for free thanks to AMC Theatres.
Woo!
I also want to give a shout out to The Printer by Johannes Schmidt. This is a really well-made movie. It's about the head of a printer company who gets killed by a printer hitting his head. And then the detectives turn up and then they're trying to figure out what happened, and this detective has this whole daydream about what he thinks might happen. Really well done. It's from a guy in Germany, so congratulations
Is
to
it
you.
played by the same printer that was in Office Space?
Could be.
It's good to see that printer
yeah.
getting work.
Could be. I mean, it
Yeah.
looks like a heavy printer.
Gonna need you to come in on
an
Saturday.
older printer.
DC
So
load
thanks
letter.
so much. And if you guys have a short film under 20 minutes long that you'd like us to watch it for this competition, make sure you send it to amciindie@gmail.com. All right, now it's time for our indie picks. And this week I thought I'd do something a little different because we're always talking about the films that we've seen and the ones that we recommend. But how about the films that we never got around to seeing that maybe we probably should?
Definitely.
Scott, what's your pick?
Well, my pick is a movie that I absolutely meant to see, but it's just one of those things. We see a lot of movies week to week, and sometimes you just can't get around to them. This one is a movie that I heard great things about. It co-stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Jake Gyllenhaal, your future husband.
Double Gyllenhaal.
Double dose of Jake
Which one?
Gyllenhaal. I heard great things about this film, and this is
so
from.
many Gyllenhaals there.
Oh, there you go.
There's plenty to
you
go
should put
around.
that on your wall.
Yeah.
But this movie was directed by
Denis Villeneuve,
who did The Prisoner,
Mm-hmm.
and he's also doing
Sicario, and Blade Runner.
and
the
Blade
sequel.
Runner. Yes, I mean the new Blade Runner sequel. But yeah, this is a movie that I heard a lot about, especially from you, Alicia, and
Mm-hmm.
I just never got around to seeing it.
What about you, Ryan? What's one that you haven't seen that you should
I can't hear Blade Runner, by the way, without thinking about. In my mind now, Baz Luhrmann is directing Blade Runner because of that Amy Schumer sketch.
Oh, right,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Every time I hear Blade
glad
Runner now,
that's not
I
actually
think that's
happening.
real. Yeah, mine is definitely a faux pas and a movie that people who do what we do should pretend to have seen. But I got to go to this really great event for the David Lynch Foundation a couple months ago. And it was, there were performances from like Duran Duran and it was, Angelo Badalamenti was there, who of course has, scored a bunch of his stuff. I'm a big Twin Peaks fan. I have a Twin Peaks painting in my house.
Wow.
I've never seen Eraserhead.
Wow.
And people were talking about Eraserhead a lot that night because it was kind of celebrating all of his
It's
stuff.
iconic.
And that night I'm sitting in my chair like, wait, I've never seen that.
I gotta tell you, we just rewatched it recently because we just profiled him for profiles, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. Not only does it hold up, but it is really genuinely scary. It's kind of timeless because it's in black and white. It looks like it could
It's
have been
so
shot
surreal.
today. So surreal, so disturbing, so unnerving. Definitely a movie that will stay with you. And if you love Lynch, ta-da!
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I've in these situations, I hear myself telling other people like, "Oh, if only I could watch that again for the first time." Lucky you. So I think this will be my turn.
It'll be a good experience for you to watch it for the first time. A movie that I often just pretend that I've seen, which I haven't, is Evil Dead.
Evil Dead! You never saw Evil Dead, Sam Raimi!
Never saw it.
Well, it's scary. No wonder you didn't see it. You don't
Exactly.
like scary movies.
Exactly, from 1981, directed by Sam Raimi. As we said, it was his first feature film. I mean, I've seen this image so many times.
Did you see
Yeah,
Evil
Bruce
Dead 2?
Campbell.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
two was great.
Because I went backwards. I saw 2 before I ever saw the first
I
one.
saw Army of Darkness, the third movie, before I saw the first 2.
Oh, wow.
I definitely
Wow.
went backwards. But
Yeah.
Army of Darkness is like, it's wild. But the first one is scary, and it's a cult film.
Demonic possession and gory stuff. Like, they're the things I hate.
And slapstick.
But yeah, that's what I mean. You don't take it
Yeah.
seriously.
Really?
And from
Yeah.
the very beginning, Sam Raimi really had his signature style down with the sort of the hyperkinetic editing.
This is
a
why I
little
feel
bit.
like I should see it, because it's a good example of where he started
Absolutely.
and then how
Right.
his
Like me and
style has
Eraserhead.
developed. I know. We
You know,
have
I mean,
to.
obviously directed the first 3 Spider-Man
Yeah.
films, and he, the Simple Plan. And he's a filmmaker who, whenever we talk about great filmmakers and their first movies, Evil Dead is definitely up there because Sam Raimi did such a superb job, and
Yeah.
it was
Have
so
to do
different
it.
from all the other horror movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th that came out around that time. So if you could stomach it, Alicia,
I have to.
check out
Because it's
Evil
fun
Dead.
without
Yeah.
being campy. Like I don't
Exactly.
feel like it's satirizing the genre. It's more celebrating it.
It's its own thing.
Yeah.
No question about it.
And you got to see it just in case we ever get the Freddy versus Jason versus Ash movie that all of us nerds want.
yeah.
So then
Just so
I
you're
know what
up
they're
to
talking
speed.
about. Yeah, because it's one of those movies that people always talk about when they're talking about horror classics, and I'm just like, yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great movie.
Let's
Yeah,
go
so
back
what
to talking
else?
about Psycho.
This is a great idea for a conversation, by the way. You
Yeah.
Just out everyone we know for
Just call people out.
what they haven't seen.
And all the E's, by the way. Enemy, Eraserhead, Evil Dead.
Oh, right on. Did you plan that?
No.
Oh, that's
Isn't that
interesting.
interesting.
Good job.
I love alliteration.
Me too. Me too. All right, it's mailbag time. If you have an indie movie question, you can send it to amciindie@gmail.com, which is exactly what Joseph Meldrum did. He wrote, "Hello, indie buddies. Is independent filmmaking a difficult business to enter into? I would love to be part of this industry, but it seems so daunting. There is so much I don't know. Do you need to get a license first or join a writing guild or what? Can anyone make these movies or is it more involved? Thanks, guys. You rock. So I'm actually going to be doing a special which will air next week where I've got a couple of industry insiders, director and 2 producers to answer some questions about getting into the movie industry. But independent movies by their nature, you don't have to be with a studio, so it feels like you can pick up your iPhone, you could shoot something and put it on YouTube and you've made a movie. And I think the way in for any director and probably any writer as well is to do short films. Would you guys agree?
I agree. Short films are it's definitely a good way to start because, like you said, you just pick up your iPhone.
You can show your style.
Just show your style. Just use it as a calling card. And again, just like we talked about Rose McGowan, put it on YouTube and like people can see your work for free just to get the word out there. But if you have an original idea nowadays, it's very, very hard to get them made at a studio because all they want are superhero movies. I mean, those movies serve their purpose, but it's the brand awareness that makes the studios feel risk averse, and that's why they go with these films. So the question is, can you just make a movie just on your own? The answer is yes. I mean, Blair Witch Project cost $30,000. Paranormal Activity cost like $20,000, and they were shot using just regular home cameras. You know, some of Paranormal Activity was shot using an iPhone. So the answer is all you need is a good story and a resourceful method to shoot it yourself with friends that you know who are talented. Maybe you know them in film school, or maybe you know them friends from friends. Shoot it yourself, submit it to a festival like South by Southwest, Sundance, or even the LA Film Festival, and you're in.
For genre
Fantastic
films.
Fest, exactly.
Yeah, Ryan, do you have any advice for people wanting to break into the
yeah,
industry?
I mean, first of all, this show is shot on iPhones. Like,
yeah,
there's just
isn't
a couple dudes standing around with iPhones, and it's great.
iPhone 6.
Right, obviously. Apple Watch, actually. They're filming it with the Apple
That'll
Watch.
be the next thing.
Yeah, I think it's such an exciting time right now to be able to answer a question like this question that came in because, when you think about, I don't know, like Kevin Smith and Clerks, how all the difficulty that there must have been to muster up everything to even make that. Whereas now the tools and the means of production are, they're so accessible. Like we were talking about red cameras earlier and how that used to be like the red camera.
Like an IMAX camera.
Yeah, and now you see like, a 20-year-old kid filming a concert with one, like literally,
Yeah.
So the fact that everything's so accessible, I mean, just with the tools that are sitting right here, our phones and your laptop, we can make a film, the three of us. That's really exciting. The difficulty, I think, that's more prominent now than before is because there is so much content and there are so many places to put it and to look for it. I feel like the pressure's on more than ever to come up with a really original idea and to have a unique point of view and something to say. Like you were saying, brand awareness. I always think about the first time they remade Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one with Jessica Biel in it.
Yep.
Which, wasn't her fault. Definitely not saying anything bad about her. But, they made that movie simply because they had done some kind of market research that was like, people know the name of that movie.
Well, look at Poltergeist.
Yeah, exactly.
That remake of Poltergeist was terrible. People are like, oh, you just have too much of an appreciation. You're too attached to the original. I'm like, well, I'm attached to the original because it's a great movie.
Right.
Okay. The remake was a joke. But that's why, but they went ahead and they go and they do these movies anyway because, well, people know the name. They know the brand. They know the characters.
It's interesting because it's harder and easier to get into the film industry at the same time.
Yeah.
Because it's harder because back in the day, they used to hold more pitch meetings at studios where you could go in with your original concept, like you see in The Player, the Robert Altman film, and
The
then
Graduate.
you really sell it.
Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. You really try and sell it, and it might never get made, but at least you have that chance. These days, it seems to be more marketing teams going, yeah, we know that name, so let's just do another one like that. Or that's a book or a comic book that we love, let's just make that. Same time, technology, like you guys said, has made it much easier to make movies. So keep at it. I think it's a worthwhile dream. And we see so many success stories as well, like Colin Trevorrow, who did Safety Not Guaranteed and now Jurassic World.
Yeah, that's
so
a
the
jump.
studios are looking at independent movie makers for the next big thing.
Yeah, Mark Webb directed one of my favorite movies, 500 Days of Summer, and his next
Spider-Man.
movie is The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, and before that, he was doing music videos for Hatebreed and AFI and all these like punk bands and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's and that still seems to be Another way, we talked about short films, but also music videos. A lot of directors that we all know and love now got their start. Even Zack Snyder, he did like a Morrissey video before doing the remake of Dawn of the Dead, and then now he's steering this giant
it's still a daunting concept to be like, oh, well, why don't you try a music video? Why don't you try this or try that? The ideal answer, the easiest answer is just come up with a story, come up with a screenplay that is not a superhero movie, something that doesn't cost like $250 million.
You could do a really low budget superhero movie like a Chronicle.
Or like Chronicle's a great example, or Super with Rainn Wilson. That was very, very low budget. But the point is just be original, be inventive, be imaginative, be resourceful in your story so you can shoot it on your own for just a little bit of money. Put it together yourself using, whatever it is, Final Cut or whatever, and iMovie, and take it to the festivals.
Brick, great example of a original concept. Let's do a noir, but contemporary.
And now he's doing Star Wars.
Yep,
no big deal.
Exactly.
So reach for the stars.
Reach for the stars.
Go to a galaxy far, far away. What? That brings us to the end of another AMCi Indie Spotlight, complete with bad puns and terrible nicknames. I'd like to thank my panel for joining me today. Mancy Pants, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me online at accesshollywood.com. You can find me hosting Profiles with Malone and Mantz on YouTube and on iTunes. And you can tweet me at Movie Mantz, at Alicia Malone, at Movie Mantz, at Alicia Malone. One more, at Movie Mantz, at Alicia Malone.
Yeah, repeat to get some people's heads. And Rai, where can people find you online?
That's a true professional, by the way. You can find me at altpress.com, also at APTV, which is our video channel. And you can see me in the pages of Alternative Press, the magazine, which still exists.
Very good.
The nation's second biggest music magazine and only rock monthly that's still around. We have an award show this summer called the APMAs, which we started last year. That's going to be awesome. It's in Cleveland. It's the 30th year for Alternative Press, getting a little exhibit in the Rock Hall. And you can find me on Twitter at Superhero HQ.
Superhero HQ.
That's me.
At Alicia Malone. At Movie Mantz. I won't do it. At Alicia Malone on all the social media network situations, whatever you want to call them. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope. I'm thinking about Snapchat. Haven't been convinced just yet. Don't forget to hit us with your questions. AMCiindie@gmail.com. Go and watch some indie movies, and I'll see you soon. Bye.